O God, we come before you with gratitude. We thank you for being a God of love, who is with us now in this very room. You never love us or forsake us. Your grace has brought us safe this far. Your grace will lead us home. Lord, we thank you for making each of us in this room in your image and likeness. Every person we meet, every citizen of the city, and every city in your own image with dignity and infinite worth. We thank you for calling you've given every one of us to be a good stewards of your creation, to love our neighbors as ourselves.
Welcome, members, and welcome to those watching us on live stream. I will now hand over to Rachel Edwards, Head of Constitutional Service, to go through some of the housekeeping points. Rachel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. To all present, please ensure that all mobile phones are set to silent. In the event of an evacuation, please exit through the doors on both sides of the chamber, following council staff to the assembly point. As per Council Standing Order 28.1, if you wish to speak, please ensure that you raise your hand and you'll be invited to address the meeting. The Mayor has confirmed that he would like members to stand, if able to do so, when addressing the chamber. All votes will be taken via an electronic voting system. If there is a recorded vote, this will be taken in the normal way. There is a points document on your tables. Please address the Mayor with the points document and the point that you are raising. Finally, I would like to remind members that this meeting is being live streamed, so please make sure that when you speak, you use your microphone. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay then, agenda item 1, are there any apologies for absence?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Apologies have been given by Councillor Ayres, Councillor Geraghty, Councillor Newman-Iqbal, Councillor Amjad Iqbal, Councillor Khan, Councillor Knight, Councillor Thorburn, Councillor Howard, Councillor Jenkins and Councillor Saqib Farouk. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any others? Thank you. Thank you very much. Agenda item 2 then, are there any declarations of interest from members and officers this evening which are not already recorded separately on their individual register of interest? No, thank you. Agenda item 3, I move approval of the minutes of the last meeting held on the 24th of July 2024. Councillor.
I'm happy to second those, Mr. Mayor.
Who's proposing the move? You're seconding them, are you? Okay. Thank you. If there's no objection, then I'll take that as a... Sorry, Councillor.
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is spelt incorrectly on 23B, update from the Children's Improvement Board. I'm not Katie Coles, I'm Katie Cole. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor.
Do you want to stand?
Well done.
Can I stand? I've got a sweetie. I just wanted to ask if Appendix 1 is now available for the question and answers report for that is...
Yeah, be uploaded. Yeah, shortly.
So, subject to those minor corrections, are we agreed?
Well, the next question is, can we agree them if they're not complete?
Well, that's a good question. Ask our legal people. Can we agree them if they're not complete?
Can it not just simply be deferred till the next meeting? I don't think it's going to cause an earthquake if we do. I think that might be the simplest way.
So I think deferring them would be perfectly acceptable.
Okay, so we will defer approval of those minutes until we're happy with them. Is that okay with everybody? Good. Thank you very much. And again, I would remind you to stand when you speak, if you're able, please. All right, agenda item 4, the Mayor's announcements. I'd like to add that we've got, on the 8th of November, we have an Italian experience, which you should all attend if you enjoy Italian food. Let me assure you, we've got the Italian ladies from our community preparing a traditional Italian meal with some extremely good southern Italian wine, if you're a wine drinker. If you only want mineral water, that's available too. Now, then we go on to the quiz night at the Town Hall on the 4th of December, and that should be great fun. Last year was a very big success, so I'm looking forward to that. And of course, on the 14th, we've got a literary lunch with the Reverend Richard Cole at the Holiday Inn. Yes, Councillor.
Sorry to interrupt, but before Katie Cole says it's Coles.
It's Coles, okay, sorry.
Not Katie Coles.
Somebody
Richard Coles.
Somebody needs
as opposed to Cole.
To get the spelling right. But okay, anyway, but we do know who we're talking about, don't we? Yeah, good. I saw somebody else's hand up. Who was it? No? You've put it away again, have you? Fair enough. Okay, well, further information will be forwarded to all of you when it's available, but the nearest one is the 8th of November. Can I please just urge you to come and do something, come and try something really different? You're not going to get it in any restaurant, you're not going to find it in anywhere else other than an Italian's home. So that should be a very good night. I look forward to seeing you all. Not that we could let you all in, but it would be good. Thank you very much. Item 5 are the leaders' announcements. And Councillor Dennis Jones, I understand you wish to make announcements this evening. You've got 5 minutes, Dennis.
I do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll put my sweet down for a second. You always catch me on a meeting. I crave your indulgence. I'm not going to stand up for two reasons. One, obviously, the hip replacement. The other one, this is probably 8-point font. And if I stood up, I couldn't read it. So please bear with me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to begin
and glasses.
By publicly thanking all the sponsors for their part in making Christmas celebrations in the city centre this year. Along with councillors across this chamber who contributed from their community leadership funds, they have collectively ensured that families across Peterborough can enjoy the festivities in the city centre, including the Switch On event on the 22nd of November, another date for your diary. It was a far from easy decision telling people that Christmas in the city would be cancelled if we didn't reach our sponsorship target. But I did promise I'd make difficult decisions to get the council onto a stable financial footing, and this appeared to be one of them. Lest we forget, we all agreed in the chamber in February that Christmas events would be covered by sponsorship. It was a collective decision. How could I go back on that, knowing the huge financial pressures that we're under? Anyway, Christmas is saved, and thank you to you all for playing a part in that, heartfelt. On the subject of our finances, last month we launched our Shaping the City consultation to gauge the views of residents, businesses and other stakeholders on our new set of corporate priorities. It's an important consultation as we are asking people for their views on the priorities we will invest time and, just as importantly, money in over the next few years. Why? Because we cannot continue to provide the same services as we always has. And if we do, we stand to fail, as many other councils around us have done. This consultation is a chance to have your say on our draft priorities, and we need to set a balanced budget, something we legally have to do. There are 3 public events remaining in Stanground, Orton and New England. Plus, people can still get involved on Facebook, polls by joining our Shaping the City Facebook group and complete the form online. The Facebook group has over 900 members and has attracted over 3,000 votes. Consultation closes on the 27th of October, so book early. On consultation, I'd like to thank those who took part in the recent public engagement on the station quarter. Over 350 people sent their feedback on the proposals and came to the event to learn more about the project. There are also lots of workshops and specific groups, and I'm pleased so many voices were heard. We'll be submitting our full business case to government early next year. The station quarter is a hugely significant part of Peterborough's growth and regeneration journey, improving the station's space around it and create a more enjoyable and accessible space for everyone. I'd also like to mention the recent Ofsted inspection of children's services. Councillor Cole will provide an update on this and the work of the Improvement Board later in the evening. However, I want to place on record a huge thanks to all staff in children's services who are working incredibly hard to make significant improvements needed to the service. In the past month, we've also launched our new Social Work Academy, which will support both newly qualified and international social workers. I'm delighted to welcome 6 international social workers and 9 newly qualified practitioners to our team. The aim is to address the challenge of recruiting and keeping enough qualified social work staff, particularly experienced practitioners, to help stabilise the workforce, reduce our reliance on agency staff, and above all, improve outcomes for children and families. These new recruits will receive extensive support from the Social Work Academy. The recruitment and retention of social work is a huge issue for all authorities, and I tip my hat to Johnny's team in this vitally important area. I'd also like to say a big well done to everyone involved in our Family Hubs programme, which celebrated its first anniversary this week. Initially, 3 hubs were launched in Welland, Paston and Norton, and a 4th since opened at East Children's Centre in Durham Road. The team organised a number of sell-out events for families over the summer. As this is a project that's dear to mine and others' hearts, I look forward to seeing what they have planned next. And last, but by no means least, I'd like to welcome Councillor Farouk as the newly appointed leader of Peterborough First. And in doing so, thank Councillor Harper for his service as leader of Peterborough First. I found Chris a man to be of integrity and reason, and I look forward to working with Councillor Farouk in a similar vein. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. That was right on the spot. 5 minutes. Well done. Now, for the other leaders, group leaders have agreed to extend. I've agreed to extend your time to 2 minutes each. So, if Councillor Farouk wants to speak, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, and thank you, Councillor Jones, for introduction. Mr. Mayor, may I take this opportunity first of all to thank my friend Councillor Harper for leading Peterborough First Group. Mr. Harper has been leader for the last 2 years and has taken group to the next level, and as Councillor Jones says, he's been a symbol of integrity and visionary. If I achieve half as much as what he has achieved, I will be a proud man. Thank you, Councillor Harper, for all your contribution. Mr. Mayor, may I also take this opportunity to congratulate all the runners who took part in the Great Eastern Run last Sunday. Great Eastern Run always puts our city on the map. These runners are often heart and soul of our local charities and raise well-needed funds for worthwhile causes. May I also congratulate my co-councillor and my best friend, John Howard, for not only completing the race, but also playing a pivotal role in delivering the race in the last few years. Peterborough First Group is also delighted that the Christmas lights are going ahead, and we're happy to contribute in delivering them. The work towards securing commercial sponsorship for next year must start now and avoid last-minute panic like this year. We're also happy with the shaping of our city consultation and look forward to the feedback from our residents. Mr. Mayor, we welcome the work done on the Station Quarter and Town Fund and urge the administration for the work to be speeded up to ensure that we meet the deadlines and do not lose the funding. And finally, Mr. Mayor, I would like to thank John Gregg and his team for all the hard work in putting and improving our children's services and delivering much needed improvements. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Farouk. Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll rise slowly. In response to Councillor Jones's statement about Christmas, I wasn't sure a couple of weeks ago whether it was he or Keir Starmer that would qualify Grinch of the Year this year. But he's pulled it out of the bag, but it seems somebody dropped a serious bauble on this in terms of the sponsorship. That it is, like Councillor Farouk mentioned it, a bit last minute. And if it wasn't for a rallying round of councillors, we may not have Christmas. The Labour Party who cancelled Christmas, you can imagine that sorry folks, I'm just jesting with you, but that was actually put on social media at some point. So anyway, look, we will look forward to a great Christmas as always. We do it well here in Peterborough. I'd also like to agree with Councillor Jones's comments on the full business case. Whose business case it is, I'm not sure, but we're proud as a former administration to have kick-started lots of the regeneration initiatives that are ongoing, particularly the station quarter. But I do hope it does get delivered, and indeed we must all stick with it and keep the city moving forwards. I'd also I'd like to congratulate Councillor Mohammed Farouk as the newly elected leader of the Conservative group. Oh, sorry, that was last year, wasn't it? Maybe I've made a mistake. I'm reading last year's speeches. But anyway, we all wish him well. It's not an easy job being in charge, as Dennis is finding out. If anybody was watching yesterday's Cabinet, and we've got exciting times to come in the next council meeting in November, when we get to discuss, you guessed it, Warrington Fields. You're all looking forward to that, aren't you? I know. So it'll be an exciting few months ahead, and there is lots to do. And I'll shut up. I don't need the 2 minutes. You'll be pleased about that. But thank you, Mr. Mayor. You've only got 6 seconds anyway. Well, I can easily take that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hogg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Glad to see that the Christmas switch on has been saved. And speaking for the Liberal Democrat group, we're happy to have played our part in helping that over the line. Hopefully next year's planning will be better and the event can be sorted much sooner in the year. Great to see the council venturing out to interface with our communities at convenient local venues, and I would encourage everyone to participate where they can. I will echo the thanks to Councillor Harper for his service as the first Peterborough First group leader, and welcome Councillor Farouk, not an unknown quantity, that's by any means, to that position, and I look forward to working with you. I have a couple of announcements myself. Firstly, I'd like to thank the team at Peterborough Limited and the officers of the City Council for completing the work on the new P-Chill formation, which will unlock a number of financial savings and grant-raising opportunities for our heritage and leisure services. I'd also, as you will also know, that the Lido session is now drawn to a season is drawn to a close with the traditional dog swim 2-day event, which saw 480 dogs along with over 600 humans using the facility. This season, the Lido has seen a yearly increase of around 2,000 visitors, up to nearly 40,000 this year. So please remember that public swimming is still available, although maybe slightly reduced from where we would like it to be. But you can still go to Jack Hunt and the stand ground facilities. See website for details. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. And Councillor Day.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, we offer a warm welcome to Councillor Rangzeb, both to the Green Group and the Green Party. We have been enjoying working with him so far, both in Ravensthorpe and on wider City Council work. We welcome the shaping of our city, face-to-face consultations. These are often the best way to gauge the views of residents, businesses and stakeholders, and we look forward to finding out about the feedback. We also offer a warm welcome to the newly qualified and international social workers. We know that this will go a long way on the journey to improve children's services. We, of course, also thank all sponsors and councillors for making the Christmas celebrations in the city possible. Members, as a Green Group, we also wish to recognise the passing of a year of the latest atrocities in the Middle East. What is global has local impacts. The Green Party voted at its most recent conference to recognise the Israeli government as an apartheid state and Israeli military operations in Gaza as genocide, as defined under the UN Convention 1948. We feel to name what is happening as a step towards recognition and hopeful resolution. We don't use the terms lightly. They are a sad reflection of the atrocities and the thousands of innocent victims. This motion reflects international humanitarian law, including the advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice. Our conference also reaffirms support for the boycott, divestment and sanctions campaign. We continue to press the UK government to suspend all arms licences to Israel, release the hostages, end the occupation and cooperate with international courts. Members, using my voice here is the absolute very least I can do to address the immense suffering of innocent people trapped in this now escalating conflict. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Day. Right, then we move on to agenda item 6, which are questions with notice by members of the public. There have been 2 questions submitted by members of the public to this meeting. And question number 1 is from Ms. Louise Yates. Ms. Yates, would you like to ask your question in relation to the opening days of the Dementia Centre?
Since the new budget was implemented in September, the Dementia Resource Centre in Peterborough has only been open for 3 days a week rather than the usual 5. The council have said that it will be open for 5 days a week. So who is going to run the service on the remaining 2 days? What will the service on these days look like, and when will it be effective from?
Councillor Quayum, would you like to respond?
Indeed, Mr Mayor. First of all, I'd really like to thank Louise for your question. The new Dementia Support Service at the Dementia Resource Centre, provided by the Alzheimer's Society, came into effect on the 13th of September. It will be moving to a new unit at the Cresset with a planned opening date in March 2025. The revised budget for this service, a result of the Council ensuring the viability of its services, means that there have been some changes to the way it operates. Specialist dementia advisors and all of the core valuable activities like Singing for the Brain and the peer support groups continue to operate 3 days a week. On the other 2 days, service users can continue receiving important support from the dementia advisors in person, over the phone, or virtually. We are also looking to enable external groups to utilise this space with other dementia-friendly activities during the 2 days. These discussions with the voluntary sector are ongoing and continuing, and I hope to be able to say more about that very soon. So in short, yes, the new service will be operational 5 days a week. However, discussions are ongoing regarding the full offer for the remaining 2 days that I've just described. I hope that answers your question.
Ms. Yates, do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you. We feel it would be extremely helpful if the council would commit to establishing a panel of councillors, dementia professionals and people with lived experience who would monitor and ensure that reduced funding does not equate to a reduced quality in dementia services in Peterborough. Would the Cabinet member commit to this with the panel in place by the end of 2024?
Councillor Quayum, would you like to respond?
Yes, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Louise, for the recommendation. I will certainly take that back to the directors and see what we can do and make sure that we are engaging with you as well. But in terms of the risks that we have just spoken about and the anticipated challenges, I'd just like to articulate a little bit about that to you as well. So we know that any relocation process is going to have its challenges and it's going to have risks as well. But the key anticipated challenges include potential disruptions to service delivery and adjustment difficulties for users and staff. But we've got a plan to mitigate these risks, and the Cabinet has developed a detailed risk management plan. This includes a phased relocation approach to maintain continuity of services and regular feedback mechanisms to promptly address any issues that will be in consultation with service users and their carers as well. Furthermore, contingency plans have been crafted to handle unforeseen circumstances, ensuring that the quality of care and support remains uncompromised. So that's key here for us. In conclusion, the relocation of the Dementia Resource Centre has been well planned, with a focus on user needs and service continuity. We remain committed to the provision of high-quality care and support to all our users during this transition and beyond, and I'll certainly take your comments back.
Thank you, Councillor. We now move to the second public question from Mr Nick Sanford, our prior mayor. Mr Sanford, would you like to ask your question in relation to the condition of the bus station and evening service?
Thank you. Just before I ask my question, Mr Mayor, I would actually like to give my thanks to yourself and all the other councillors for granting me the Honorary Alderman Award. It's a great honour and I'm really grateful for it. So turning to the question, does the Cabinet Member for Environment and Transport share my concern about the state of evening bus services in Peterborough? The bus services only run once every hour in the actual urban area, and they all leave Queensgate at different times, which means that passengers making journeys across the city often have to spend extended periods of time in a bus station which has little visible security presence, where the roof leaks and where the toilets are closed after 5 o'clock. Will the Cabinet Member lobby the owners of Queensgate to make improvements to the bus station, and will he press Stagecoach and the Combined Authority?
Mr Mayor, sorry to interrupt. I'm a bit distracted about the screams outside. Can you repeat the question, Nick? Apologies.
You want me to repeat all of it?
Yeah, there is a noise going on outside.
Okay.
If you'd like to repeat the question,
I will do it. Please. Yeah. Okay. Right, to repeat the question.
I think perhaps you should wait a minute, because I can still hear it. No, I've seen that. I saw. This bloody chair is so uncomfortable, it's untrue. No. No, it's no good. It's the edge of the chair. It's crap. I mean, it's just got old and needs sorted, like everything else in this town. Hall. Yeah. Yeah. Do you all want to take a comfort break for five minutes? Yeah, 5 minutes. Thank you. Please be seated. So, I think it's. I can't hear it anymore. Can anyone else? No. So I think we can restart. Councillor Mr. Samford, would you like to repeat your question, please?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Does the Cabinet Member for Environment and Transport share my concern about the state of evening bus services in Peterborough? Bus services only run once every hour in the urban area, and they all leave Queensgate at different times, which means that passengers making cross-city journeys may have to spend extended periods of time in a bus station which has very little visible security presence, where the roof leaks and where the toilets are closed after 5 o'clock. Will the Cabinet Member agree to lobby the owners of Queensgate to make improvements to the bus station and to press Stagecoach and the Combined Authority to improve both the frequency and the connectivity of evening bus services in Peterborough?
Thank you, Mr. Samford. Councillor Ellis, would you like to respond?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you very much, Mr. Sandford, for your question. I share your concerns about the bus station and services. Council officers are meeting with Queensgate regularly to discuss the bus station, future improvements and accessibility considerations. Queensgate undertook several repairs earlier this year, which included the toilets, escalator and lift. Bus services are a lifeline for many of our residents, and I would like to see better services and facilities, so I will continue to work with the Combined Authority, who have responsibility for commissioning bus services, as well as with Queensgate and Stagecoach, to improve provisions across all of Peterborough, including outside of the city centre, connecting all our communities.
Thank you. Mrs. Hamford, do you have a supplementary
Yes, thank you.
question?
Just a brief supplementary question. The Council signed up to the Combined Authority target of reducing car travel across Cambridgeshire by 15% by 2030. And so we need to achieve that, there will need to be a big increase in use of public transport. Lots of research shows that for people to use public transport, it needs to be both convenient and it needs to be safe. Would the Cabinet Member agree with me that evening bus services in Peterborough wouldn't meet those criteria? And I'm actually aware that there's a report going to the Growth Scrutiny Committee in November on public transport. So would he ask the officers preparing that report to ensure that these important issues are considered? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Samford. Councillor Ellis, would you like to respond?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for flagging that up. I do agree that it's important that we have good services all day and in the evenings as well. And I will be very interested in the report going to that scrutiny committee on the 13th of November regarding those services. So I will, totally agree. It's very important.
Thank you, Councillor Ellis. Okay, then we move on to agenda item 7, which is petitions. Those presenting petitions this evening will have 1 minute to outline their request. I'm not been told of any petitions, but are there any petitions from the public? No? Thank you. Are there any petitions from members? No. Thank you very much. Agenda item 8A to 8C. Questions on notice. And this will last for 30 minutes. There have been 10 questions submitted by members this evening, 2 cabinet members. All questions have been published on the council website and will be taken as read. That way we've got a chance of getting through all of them in the 30 minutes. Question 1 from Councillor Anne Shahid. Councillor Alison Jones, would you like to respond to the question from Councillor Shahid in relation to National Policing Statement for Violence Against Women and Girls?
Thank you, Mr Mayor, I will. Thank you for your question, Councillor Shahid. I'd like to assure you that the Council absolutely treats violence against women and girls as a priority, and we have made great progress this year to enhance our commitment to this important subject. Our Council officers lead the Domestic Abuse and Sexual Violence Partnership, and we are instrumental in directing countrywide strategies designed to improve our joined-up approach. The Domestic Abuse and Sexual Violence Partnership works closely with both internal partners, such as housing, children's and adult social care, and external parties, such as police, health and probation. All these partners attend the DASV board, which is co-chaired between the police and local authority. All partners contribute towards a countrywide DASV strategy, which is currently being refreshed. Additionally, the Council has refreshed its own policy and guidelines for our staff and elected members. This includes compulsory training modules for all staff, and we will continue to offer bespoke awareness training sessions to members so that you are all better equipped to support your residents. We also have refreshed our safe accommodation strategy to improve our support for the victims, and this year we secured White Ribbon reaccreditation, having successfully completed our action plan to evidence our good work in that area. White Ribbon's 16-day of action for the elimination of violence against women and girls will be held this November, and there are a series of events and webinars which can be accessed free of charge to Peterborough City Council staff and elected members. Details of these can be found on our Domestic Abuse Partnership, and there's also a website link that I can let you have. In addition, the website that we have is actually very comprehensive, and I would recommend that you have a look through, as it will provide you with far more information than I can do justice to tonight. I also made mention about training for members, and I would just like to say that the next training for members is actually on the 18th of December at 6:30 p.m. to be held in the Town Hall. So I would encourage all of us as members to attend that, to understand more about the work that is taking place there and how it can help us to share that with our residents. Thank you.
Councillor Shahid, do you have a supplementary?
Thank you. First of all, thank you for the answers to my question. I just wondered, given the seriousness of the actual situation, although encouraging to see what we're actually doing, have you considered setting up a work-in policy at all to look at it, being that it encompasses lots of different areas, not just crime, but health and education, or indeed appointing a different member or cabinet member for this in line with what government have done? Thank you.
Thank you for that. As I said, there are various strategies and documents that are actually already out there and in existence, and what I will do is I will go and have a look at those and speak to the relevant director and see who we've got and how we can potentially improve it, and get back to you if there is. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor, question number 2 from Councillor Christian Hogg. Councillor Alison Jones again, would you like to respond to the question from Councillor Hogg in relation to pollution control officers?
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you for the question, Councillor Hogg. The pollution control team comprises of 7 qualified staff who oversee pollution control and environmental health matters. We do know that demand for this service is high, and so a full review of our regulatory services, of which this particular team forms a part, is being carried out. This review will conclude early in the new year and will include benchmarking our investments in the service and other similar councils. Meanwhile, if any members have a specific pollution control issue that needs to be addressed, please do make contact with me and the service so that we're able to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Councillor Hogg, do you have a supplementary?
I do, Mr Mayor, yes, thank you. Thank you for the answer that you provided. I'm a bit perturbed that it didn't quite answer the question that I put to you, and that was essentially, you know, what is the complement, what should it be, and what is it actually at now? Are we undersourced? because the better, or there may be issues with health based on the stress that is involved with these, sometimes really quite complicated and stressful cases. So my question, I suppose I'll reiterate the question, is are we under strength in this department? And if so, what are we doing about it?
Councillor Jones, would you like to respond?
Thank you for that, Councillor Hogg. Yes. I think, as I said, at the end of the day, we are going through a review at this stage, and we do have data about, obviously, what the staff and the pressures of work that they're under. And so when we get the feedback from that and the results of that, then I'll happily take you through all of that to see where we do have potentially any gaps that we need to actually fill to take any stress off any staff, if that's appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. We move then to question 3, again from Councillor Hogg. And Councillor Alison Jones, would you like to respond to the question from Councillor Hogg in relation to the parking enforcement officers?
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Hogg. The Council currently employs 16 civil enforcement officers working a shift pattern to provide a 7-day coverage across Peterborough. On the day in question, 4 officers were on duty during the football match, tasked with patrolling residential areas along with car parks and on-street pay and display bays. The patrols took place on residential roads around the stadium, including Glebe and Fairfield, as well as the Pleasure Fair Meadow car park. The officers who were allocated to other areas on that day would have also been on football patrols from 4 o'clock, and they managed the traffic at the San Martin House after football. On the day in question, 66 enforcement notices were issued. If you'd like a full breakdown of the areas that they were issued, then I can obviously provide you with that. A review of the current resource levels is in progress. Any increases to staff to be implemented by the 1st of April 2025 as part of the implementation of our Moving Traffic Offence project. The introduction of the automatic number plate recognition on several car parks across the city will enable us to deploy officers to focus more on street parking offences, which impacts the residents of the city. Current car parks which are operating are St Martin House, as many of us I'm sure have already tried that, the Car Haven and the Riverside is due to go live this week. We will monitor the impact and review before we commit to any other additional car parks. Thank you.
Councillor Hogg, do you have a supplementary?
Yes, I do, Mr Mayor. Thank you very much. So I am concerned that there seems to be a distinct lack of resource going into this problem, specifically parking on match days. And it would be evidenced by the fact that although they didn't hit many streets, there was a lot of tickets that were issued. But what I'm feeling is that essentially the problem has grown quite considerably, and that, in terms of putting some more resource to that, it would essentially pay for itself because of the number of tickets that would come in. And then what it would also do is it would then encourage people to start using our car parks more, and so that we would actually get more revenue from the car parks. So purely on financial terms, and I know Cecilia will like the sound of that, it seems to be a bit of a no-brainer in terms of bringing more resource, more revenue into the council. But from my point of view, it's about making sure that the residents that live in these streets feel like the service is giving them a correct service. So, could we look at potentially taking on part-time enforcement officers that could just be used for peak periods, specifically weekends and match days?
Thank you for that. Councillor Jones, would you like to respond?
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you for your ideas on that one, Councillor Hogg. As we appreciate that obviously we have got a financial constraint at the moment and there is a recruitment freeze. However, as you also pointed out, yes, there is a level of self-funding that goes on in this department, and I will take it back and discuss it and see whether there's any validity in that either now or in the future as part of the review that's going on at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. We move to question 4.
Sorry to interrupt proceedings. Could I ask, please, we're having difficulty hearing particularly some of the responses over here. I know when people stand up, they're a distance from the microphone, but Councillor Hogg is fine. His voice is booming. I wonder whether others could make an attempt to just speak a little bit louder than they are. Thank you very much.
I think we need longer necks on the microphones, don't we? So that when you're standing, it can be a bit closer to you, yeah? Like a giraffe. You don't have the problem, Wayne, but some of us do. So, can we then move on to question 4 from Councillor Ali? And Councillor Angus Ellis, would you like to respond to the question from Councillor Ali in relation to sewage dumping?
Thank you, Councillor Ali. I'll just go a bit nearer to the microphone, if that helps. First of all, sorry to hear about these issues, and thank you for the question. The Environment Agency is the primary regulator with regards to watercourses and will generally handle all sewage dumping and pollution issues internally, liaising with the Council if required. However, the Council's drainage team works closely with our partners at the Environment Agency on various projects and other support as and when required. We also ensure that the issues and challenges relevant to Peterborough are both raised and well understood by the agency in order that they can be addressed. If members have any specific issues they would like to raise, please do contact our drainage team for discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Alice. Councillor Ali, do you want a supplementary? Technology.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I did have a supplementary. Councillor Ellis says that he was disappointed to hear about the recent sewage dumping, but actually there's been 4 million hours of sewage dumping around the UK just in 2023, so this isn't an isolated incident. He also said that the Environment Agency occasionally does get in contact with the council about specific issues. So my question is, for this specific issue, where following excessive rainfall there was a leak in or a failure in a pump that led to close to 23 hours of sewage dumping at King's Dyke, did the Environment Agency get in touch with the council, and what is the council's responsibility in respect to this? Thank you.
Councillor Ellis, did you want to respond to that?
Thank you, Councillor Ali. I will need to check as to the actual incident and if they did contact the council and what happened for it, and I'll put it in writing to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Move on to question 5 from Councillor Steve Allen. Councillor Ellis, would you like to stand up and respond to the question from Councillor Allen in relation to drainage and gully cleaning?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll get up again and thank you, Councillor Allen, for your question. The Council's gully cleansing programme operates on a biannual basis by area. This is in addition to the ad hoc reactive work completed to problem areas and in responses to reports from Fix My Street, which can be accessed on our website. We encourage its use to report concerns so our engineering team can attend sites to assess the problem and prioritise work if required. Councillors will be aware that as part of the previous budget discussion, gully cleansing was reduced by 1/3, and it is therefore not possible to cleanse the entire system every year, especially considering that the cost of doing this work has increased significantly. Aragon Direct Services carry out our street cleansing function and aim to cleanse the highway network that falls within our responsibility up to twice per year, depending on road space availability. National highways are responsible for the drainage systems associated with the major roads, such as the A47, and the Council does not carry out this work on their behalf.
Thank you, Councillor Harris. Councillor Allen, did you have a supplementary?
If I may, please, Mr. Mayor, and thank you very much, Councillor Ellis, for your response.
Just a second, Councillor Allen. Let me just. We've got somebody over there. What, Councillor? How can? What is it that you would like?
Just a point of information, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Ellis suggested that the budget has been cut, but if you look back to the last budget, we actually increased the budget for this very subject by £68,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Allen.
Thank you. And indeed, the point just brought up was one of the elements of the supplementary I'm just about to pose. The fact that the gullies on the trunk roads, the A47, and indeed the A47 passes through my own ward, I can tell you that that's not been cleaned for 3 years. So whether it's relevant to cutbacks, I don't know. I mean, I've got to say, has the work been impacted by decisions of the council at some point based on budget cutbacks? And if so, is there an acceptance of the possible safety issues without the regularity of scheduled work required to alleviate this recurring problem? Additionally, and we must admit that in the long run, if we don't do the work sooner, it will come back to us later at a higher cost. My question is, can we make sure that we get on this task before the cost is unachievable? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Councillor Ellis, did you want to respond?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Allen. Just first of all, for a point of information, the money towards the gully cleansing hasn't been cut in the last budget. It's the frequency, just to correct, so that clarifies your point of order. So yeah, you're right, it wasn't cut, but the frequency has changed. And I do take on board that your concerns around the cleaning of drains and gullies. The main cost of cleansing the parkway network is the traffic management that is needed to allow for safe working conditions. And so we've got to make sure that it is all sorted out. So I'll take on board what you said and we can look at it closer.
Thank you. Councillor.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, but that answer is nonsense, because if the budget hasn't been cut, it's actually been increased. Why has the service been cut?
Under which point of order were you asking that question?
A point of information.
Anyway, let's move on. Question 6, Councillor Allen, from Councillor Allen. Councillor Dennis Jones, would you like to respond to the question from Councillor Allen in relation to the comms and public relations?
I'll be delighted to pick this up, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. And thanks for your question, Councillor Allen. In short, no, I don't think it was a bad idea. To misquote none other than Hippocrates, difficult times call for difficult measures. To my mind, and clearly from the heartwarming and positive speed of the response to my appeal, neither did the respondents feel it was a bad idea, that it was better than cancelling our city celebrations, although something other councils have had to do because of their own dire financial position. Our financial position is well documented. Budget pressure on £11 million to save in the current financial year because of the huge gap in demand for services, and in the next financial year we have a budget gap of anything between 13 and 24 million, depending on look at best or worst case modelling. Lest we forget, we voted unanimously, as I recall, that the cost of Christmas celebrations would be covered by sponsorship. Despite 6 months, this wasn't anything last minute, of attempting to raise a sponsorship, we were still 22,000 off our target. Given the financial situation that I've described, I was simply not willing to add to that challenge by using council funds to plug the gap. I don't think our communication was in any way threatening. They were honest and genuine. There are a large number of businesses in the city that have budgets to spend on community good causes, and it was a decision for those businesses whether they could support the event or not. For those that did, they are reaping the rewards of the publicity surrounding their collective efforts to save Christmas. In summary, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank you and all the other councillors who rallied to our cause and donate so swiftly and generously. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Allen, do you have a supplementary?
Yes, please, if I may. I'll just give a little gap in case anybody wants to pop in here with an intervention. Right, okay. Thank you very much for that response, Leader. I've got to say that The Thorney and Newborough councillors together were hot off the press and contributed towards your appeal. So I think there's nothing wrong with the appeal. It's the optics of going out and saying that with comms that we're going to close Christmas down because we can't afford to run it. It was a nonsense press statement that we should not have done. It reeked of desperation. The optics were appalling. And I will ask, can you agree that early engagement with the commercial sector and Peterborough Positive to achieve not only the decorations that we have on a yearly basis, but additionality would surely be better than the use of such a blunt instrument? Thank you.
Councillor Jones, would you like to respond?
I couldn't agree more that sometimes we need the skill of the surgeon when perhaps a sledgehammer is the only thing we have. Quite frankly, we did work hard, and I send my great thanks to the comms team to deal with it, but I think you'll agree with it. We've discussed this at FSWG, and one of the things we must investigate is, quite right, is having a more professional approach towards raising the funds earlier. And so I disagree with your first point. I do agree with your second point entirely, and I think that's a point well made and taken. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Right, question 7 from Councillor Stevenson. Councillor Quayum, would you like to respond to the question from Councillor Stevenson in relation to the Dementia Resource Centre?
I'd like to thank Councillor Stevenson for her question. Thank you very much. I'd highlighted it in the answer to the first question that was asked, but you've asked a separate question and you have a right to hear it again, so I'm more than happy to reiterate that. So in answer to your question, the council has identified a unit within the Cresset for the relocated Dementia Resource Centre, and our property team has completed a review of all of our buildings and identified an opportunity to use space within Bretton Library at the Cresset to incorporate the Dementia Resource Centre. This will maximise the use of the space and support with delivering more efficient and cost-effective services. The programme has targeted a work start date in January 2024, which will run for 6 to 8 weeks, with a planned opening date in March 2025. The funding going forward originates from the same source as before, which is the main adult social care budget. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stevenson. Do you have a supplementary question?
I do, thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Councillor, for repeating that again for him. Didn't know there was going to be another question about it. I could write a book about dementia. A third member of my family is currently living with it, and it's horrific. And I know I'm not alone in this chamber. There will be others of us here whose family members, I can see nods already, are living with this. And so many of our residents as well, and so many of us will know residents, and we see the signs and we see it coming. And so there's a huge depth of knowledge just around the chamber about this dreadful, dreadful disease. And so I'd just like to reiterate what Louise Yates said earlier. I would think there'd be great value in setting up a working group of councillors to share. We have so much knowledge about the pathways, the experience, the physical is all one thing. We tend to think about how we deal with people on a day-to-day, but financial, family relationships, it's tearing me and my brother apart.
Councillor, I know it's
and I'm
very
sure
important,
that is the case.
but
so could I ask you please to consider very carefully whether we can possibly have a working group so we can share our knowledge. Thank you. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Stevenson. Would you like to respond, Councillor Quayum?
I would indeed, and Councillor Stevenson is very well aware that when this project first started, her and I were in conversations for hours on the phone about what my vision was and what the Cabinet's vision was, and we reiterate the point that the consultation and the risk management plan and the management plan that the Cabinet and the directors have put forward is fit for purpose, will be in consensus with service users, the carers, and yes, cross-party with councillors, as I stood up in July and reiterated that that is what we're going to do. So in terms of a working group, I will feed that back most certainly, but we already have those plans in place. It's robust, and the main thing is that it doesn't compromise the care of those service users. That should be our focal point. As a GP, I look after dementia service users every day. And again, I'd like to really like to thank the directors and the members of staff who have gone back and looked to find the budget to keep this viable. We should never forget that. They are a vulnerable population, and I think that we've done a good job at safeguarding their needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quayle. Question 8 from Councillor Farouk. As Councillor Fulburn has sent his apologies, the leader, Dennis Jones, will respond, I understand. Councillor Dennis Jones, would you like to respond to the question from Councillor Farouk in relation to the regeneration business case?
I will indeed, Mr Mayor. Thank you for your question, Councillor Farouk. In its absence, and I'm sure you'll join me in wishing him a speedy recovery from surgery, I'm reliably informed that £40,000 was secured in March 2024 to fund the viability report for the regeneration of the Guildhall. The report will include a condition survey, structural, and an architect's feasibility study with 4 potential concepts. Preliminary discussions with Historic England and Building Control Service have also begun. The next steps involve passing the feasibility study and survey reports to the quantity surveyor for cost estimation and engaging the regional inspector for ancient monuments. Once complete, these elements will form the Guildhall viability report, which will outline the preferred option, funding strategy and benefits. Should we be successful in this mission to breathe new life into this historic and iconic building, it will provide benefits as broad as combating antisocial behaviour, increasing civic pride, providing a new community space in the heart of our city, and providing a new facility through which to promote and support our visitor economy, recently approved by Cabinet just yesterday, and staging a wide variety of events. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Farouk, do you have a supplementary?
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I have. First of all, I wish Councillor Fulburn a speedy recovery and hope to see him soon. Thank you, Councillor Jones, for the answer. Some 8 months ago, my co-councillor and my friend Councillor Hiller started that business case, allocated that £40,000 for Guildhall and the regeneration of Cathedral Square, with the majority of the funding coming from the combined authority. We were concerned when we were told that this might have been shelved, and the new strategy which came along a few days ago in the Cabinet, many critics tell me that the new city centre economic strategy is lacking any substance, vision or growth. It only states that we will be holding more cultural functions, which we already do, Mr Mayor. So are we missing the opportunity? This is more of an observation point, and we wait for Councillor Fulburn to reply back or work on it. Thank you.
No, thank you. If I may, Mr Mayor.
Would you like to respond to that, Mr Jones?
Thank you. I think there's two issues we don't want to conflate. One is the economic strategy and one is the visitor strategy. And obviously very much in the visitor strategy, then the Guildhall is covered in that, and that rolls into not only a strategy for the greater Peterborough area, but also focuses down on the economic strategy going forward for the city, both of which I'm happy to sign up to. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Right, question 9 from Councillor Farid. Councillor Ashton-Jones, would you like to respond to the question from Councillor Farid in relation to mandatory CCTV in taxi cabs?
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Farid, for your question.
Okay.
The Licensing Committee met on the 12th of September to discuss the results of a recent public consultation in relation to the proposed mandating of CCTV cameras in Hackney and private hire vehicles. A full debate was held with representatives from the trade, councillors and council officers, after which the Licensing Committee gave recommendations to refer this to full council to allow all councillors the opportunity to consider this proposal. This council recognises that this proposed policy is of great interest to our taxi operators, drivers and users. Councillors will therefore need to take the time to consider all the facts carefully prior to full council. Additionally, officers are continuing to seek engagement with the relevant trade taxi representatives and unions, who we know play such a key part in this policy. It is therefore necessary to defer this to a full council meeting to allow further engagement to enrich the debate. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Would you like a supplement, please, Councillor Freed?
Yes.
Do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Given that taxi licensing fees are more than covering costs of licensing and are producing a surplus that is being used to plug revenue gaps in the council expenditure, are we not doing taxi drivers a disservice by ignoring their objections to this legislation that is paid for by the revenue that they generate?
Councillor Jones.
Thank you for your question. I think the important part is that obviously the licensing committee have debated it and they've referred it back to full council, and within that there is an awful lot of information, and I think it only right that that will form part of that discussion that then will be held at full council, so everybody will be able to have their comments at that time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jones, and that's the 30 minutes up. So we move on. I'm sorry, Councillor Ryan, your question is gone. Agenda
Mr Mayor, I'll be quick with the answer if you indulge me.
Sorry?
I said I'll be quick with the response if you indulge me.
No, we've got to stick to the rules, mate. I'm sorry to say, we only bend them when it suits me, mate. Yeah. Well, no. Let's not cancel next year's.
I could have answered it by now.
All this frivolity is very good at this time of year. I enjoy it. Okay, let's go to agenda item 8D, questions on notice. There are no questions submitted by members to the combined authority representatives. So we move on to agenda item 9, executive and committee recommendations to council. We are being asked to consider 3 recommendations from committees this evening. Audit Committee, Annual Audit Report 23-24. As Councillor Fulbourn has given his apologies, Councillor Jones, would you like to move the recommendations?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I am more than happy to move the recommendation. Thank you.
And do you have a seconder, Councillor?
I do believe I do in Councillor Cahill.
Thank you very much. Councillor Cahill, do you reserve your right to speak? Are you going to second the recommendations and reserve your right to speak, or otherwise?
Mr Mayor, I am happy to second the recommendation and reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, are there any other speakers? Councillor Day.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I've just got a quick question, and Councillor Ali is on our audit committee, so I'm kind of criticising his work here a bit. But I'm wondering, if the audit committee are doing a fine job, why are we struggling to close audits with EY for 21, 22 and a late for 23, 24? It just seems to be sort of something that came up in the report. Thank you.
Are there any other speakers? Can I please remind speakers that if they're going to speak, to stand unless they're not able to? Any other speakers? Thank you. Can we move then to Councillor Quayon? Would you like to exercise your right to speak?
In relation to Councillor Nicola Day's question, I'm happy to say as a member of the Audit Committee, many of us here have been privy to the discussions that have taken place at the committee, and indeed that question has been put forward. I believe that there is a timeline that we can confirm with the Cabinet Member for Corporate Finance on a definitive outcome that's going to take place, hopefully, and that we should get an answer to your question in writing. Would that be fair to say? But other than that, I'd be happy for us to move to the vote.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Jones, would you like to sum up?
I am more than happy to go to the vote. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Then is that agreed, or do we move to the vote? Agreed. Excellent. Thank you very much. Item B, Audit Committee, terms of reference. Again, Councillor Quayon, would you like to move the recommendations?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'd like to move the recommendation. Thank you.
Do you have a seconder?
My seconder is Councillor Dennis Jones.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Do you want to second it and reserve your right to speak?
I am happy to second and reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Very much. Are there any other speakers? Agreed? Is that agreed? Excellent. Let's move on. Okay. C. Constitution and Ethics Committee, Financial Regulations. Councillor Samantha Hemraj, would you like to move the recommendations?
Thank you, Chair. I'm more than happy to move the recommendations.
Do you have a seconder?
I do, Councillor Hiller.
Thank you. Councillor Hiller, do you want to second the recommendations and reserve your right to speak?
Happy to second the recommendation, Mr Mayor, and reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? No? Okay. Is that agreed then? Excellent. Okay. We then move on to agenda item 10 in relation to the record of executive decisions detailed on page 169 to 178 on your agenda pack. The leader will introduce this item and any questions will be answered by the leader unless he refers them to another member. I would remind councillors that they should ask questions on the decisions in the report. All questions should be relevant to that decision itself. Should I feel that any preamble is unnecessarily long, I will instruct councillors to ask their questions immediately. Can members please note that once I have moved on, questions will not be accepted from the previous pages. Councillor Dennis Jones, would you please introduce the item?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm delighted to do that on the record of executive decisions made since the last meeting on the Cabinet meeting held on the 16th of July, and happy to take any questions from members or pass it to the relevant Cabinet member for their reply. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor.
Page, I think it's 72, it's 173. It was just, I'm aware that there was a, sorry? Oh, sorry.
169. Yeah, I know, but where the hell is it? Yeah. Here it is. Okay, great. Sorry, could you repeat that, please? You should be on page 169. No, 170 then. 171. Councillor. Yeah, there's two. 1 and 2 and 3. Point of order.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm really struggling to see who is speaking because the screens behind you are not showing who is talking and the camera's not pointing onto them. So I wondered whether that could be looked into because I am hard of hearing and I'm struggling to see who is speaking.
I mean, I'd have asked 3 times for people who wanted to speak to stand up. Those that can. No, you did. You accepted it. But some of them, some people, you know, they forget. But I'm sure that having heard what you've just said, everybody will be mindful that those who can will stand so you will be able to see them. Okay? Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ali.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This is a question on item A, irrecoverable debts in excess of £10,000.
Which page?
Page 171.
171, thank you.
So it says we've written off over 1.25 million pounds of debt that's irrecoverable. that's up to 125 individual cases, possibly fewer than that. I just want to know how that number compares, and given the dire straits we're in, whether we should be doing more to recover debts in excess of £10,000.
Councillor Jones.
I'm more than happy to take that and refer. I can find out from our finance team. It's a very unpalatable thing that we have to do, and it grieves me every single year, Councillor Alley, but I will look to finance to come back and get a comprehensive answer for you. Thank you.
Thank you. That's page 171. Sorry. Councillor Hogg.
I just wanted to ask, there's a decision on...
Councillor.
Sorry, stand, yes, okay. Sorry. I'm just asking about the Smart Manufacturing Alliance that was due to be wound down in decision in August. Has that now happened, or are we still waiting for the... Is it still winding down?
Councillor Jones.
Yeah, again, I think this. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll take that one. Yes, it wasn't actually doing anything anyway, so it wasn't a case of winding down. It was winding up, just the pure formality of it. The Smart Manufacturing Alliance hadn't operated for some considerable time, so it no longer exists. It was merely getting agreement for the paperwork. Thank you.
Thank you. Did I see somebody over here? No. Okay. 172. 173.
And I just would like an update on the Ken Stimpson academisation, because I'm aware there was a committee cabinet meeting yesterday, so this is out of date, what's written on the papers. Thank you.
173.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to refer this to Councillor Cole, if I may.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your question, Councillor. The Cabinet decision yesterday, we agreed that the further discussion of Warrington Fields was needed. An extraordinary full council meeting has been arranged for the 19th of November, and further information for that extraordinary Cabinet meeting will be discussed then, and I look forward to that meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. 174. 175. 176. 177. Councillor Hogg.
I'm not sure if this one's allowed or not, but I'll be cheeky enough to give it a go. So it's just about the PSPO for Millfield, New England, Eastfield and the embankment. Can I assume that now that this has been concluded, the PSPO for Pleasure Fairmeadow car park can now go ahead at speed, because that's been ongoing for quite some time now?
Councillor Jones.
I'd like to hand that to Councillor Alison Jones, if I may, please.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Hogg. So you're asking about the car park? Sorry? Pleasure Fairmeadows, yes. You're asking about that then being used? Sorry, I couldn't actually hear the question. Thank you.
Because that was happening, it meant the PSPO for Pleasure Fairmeadow car park, which is to do with car cruising, etc., was supposed to go through, but it's being delayed because of the PSPO work that it's doing. Can that now progress at speed, is the answer to this question.
Thank you for that. Yes, it's a simple answer. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
(178). Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, it's the last item, the Cuckoo's Hollow Bridges. Can I ask the relevant cabinet member what procurement process was undertaken for this? Because this is authorising Millstone to effectively spend up to £600,000 on this bridge, when I know that there are companies within Peterborough who put forward potential schemes that were half this value. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to hand this to the relevant Cabinet member, is Councillor Ellis, please.
Thank you, Councillor. I will need to check more about the procurement exercise and get back to you in writing.
Can I just come in there, please, Mr Mayor, say this was funding from the combined authority. So this is all funded. It's not been funded from Peterborough at all. And of course, I think they've done the costings on it and the relevant dealings on it.
Councillor.
Mr Mayor, I don't see how that's relevant. Whether it's council money or whether it's combined authority money, paying double the amount that we have to is nonsensical. And there are companies within Peterborough who have built many of the bridges that currently sit above our parkway systems, who offered to, as a Peterborough company, offered to put a bridge in Cuckoo's Hollow for half this amount.
Thank you, Councillor. I should take it up in writing with Councillor Jones.
I do, that's right. I would say take it up in writing because, like I say, it's everybody twice after the event, aren't we? Thank you.
He's had 2 pops, so he's doing all right. Okay. Now we move on to the combined authority. A record of combined authority decisions made since the last meeting. I'll refer any questions to the relevant combined authority representative. However, otherwise the same rules will apply as the previous item. Members, these decisions can be found in your agenda packs 179 to 182, and I will take each meeting in sequence. So, we have, one of these days we'll get this right, won't we? We have overview, what's agenda item 11, public record, overview and scrutiny. Do we have any questions? Councillor Ali?
It's not so much a question, maybe just a point. I think in previous council packs we've had a table which outlined all the decisions made at combined authority meetings. It might be a long time ago. This is my first meeting since I've been re-elected, so maybe I'm just used to that. But I just feel like this is quite a bit of additional digging and maybe unnecessary work for members to look through all the decisions. So just a suggestion, if that table could be brought back, that'd certainly be helpful to me. I don't know what other members think.
Who's going to answer that? Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I suppose the question is, whose decision was to do this? That's who might be able to answer it, because I think all of us feel that we've gone backwards. I don't expect a lot of work on this, but at least you could have the decisions, and there's nothing here. This is probably the 2nd or 3rd time now that this has happened, which is great, but it doesn't say paper or money, because if they're electronic, why can't members see them electronically?
Good question.
Other than you having to point to them now if you happen to be online, but at least a summary of what the decisions were. It would also be useful to know which members of this authority attends those meetings, because I don't know, I've no idea.
It says here the representatives...
No, but did they attend? I don't know who attended or who hadn't.
Well, you forgive me, I don't know who attended, but I can tell you who the representatives are.
By the way, we agree on that. We've got that much, but whether or not they went to the meeting is a different matter.
Yes. Right, okay, so it doesn't look as if you want to get an answer, Councillor Ali, at this moment.
Can I make a suggestion,
Mr.
Mayor?
Pardon?
Can I make a suggestion that we refer this either to Constitution and Ethics to look at, or maybe even group leaders, whichever, but I think people would like to move on, if I'm being honest. I think it's a serious point that needs to be addressed, but I'm not sure that we can do it tonight, is the point.
No, we can't do it tonight.
Can't do it tonight, let's defer it.
Yeah, so we'll refer it or defer it or whatever the correct procedure is, and we'll try and get it resolved. Okay, so that's one page. That's page 179. Anybody else has got any questions on page 179? No. And you got reports from the constituents, council representative of the combined authority, and then we get to item 12 if no one's got any questions on page 181. No? Councillor again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. On account of the aforementioned conversations, I'm not sure which of the two committees, whether it's transport or education, but was at either the ridiculous decision by Peterborough Regional College to abuse the fact that councillors have worked hard to reinstate stagecoach services to rural villages, and Peterborough Regional College decide to cut all of the transportation for their own students from those villages and have told the students to rely on stagecoach services, which mean that the students arrive late and then in the evenings have to wait an hour and a half around Queensgate Bus Centre before they can actually get a bus home, as a consequence of them taking advantage of the fact that these stagecoach services have been put back on. What is the combined authority doing about it? Thank you.
Jamil? Councillor Jamil, is that you?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. It was me. The combined authority are currently working with Stagecoach to see what they can do. It's true, the college unilaterally just withdrew the system. I've spoken to them to see what they can do to reinstate it, but I've actually put it back to the combined authority to see whether they can do more with a view to getting a bus back on again for the people, for the students from the regional college who seem to have that long wait at the bus station before they can get back. So it's a work in progress. So.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay. In that case, we move on to item 12, which is motions. And we've received two motions on notice from councillors, Rafiq and Imtiaz Ali. Right. Are there any amendments? I'm told here if there are any amendments to any of the motions. No? Good. Because no, there was one put forward which has been annulled. Councillor Rafiq, would you like to move your motion as set out in the agenda?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm off to a good start. I've pressed the button and remembered to stand up, so that's a positive. Yeah, thank you. It's fantastic to be able to make my debut at full council as one of the newly elected councillors. I'd also like to congratulate everyone else that got elected in May and give a heartfelt thanks to the previous councillors. One of them being my former arch nemesis, Mr. Sanford, who we are now very good friends. And I want to thank him so much for his help recently with the permanent tree protection order, which was granted for Gunthorpe Road. Personally, for myself, it's an honour to serve the residents of Paston and Walton. We have a fantastic community and things are improving at a good pace. But one thing is getting mentioned regularly, the loss of the winter fuel payments. I'll just do a 5-second pause there. In my ward, we have 5 fantastic schemes which I visit regularly. Many of these house residents of a pensionable age. And last Friday, I was at one of these schemes, the Bevershall scheme in Paston. The scheme manager there proactively mentioned to me that there's a resident who's been advised by the Housing Association to put his heating on because it needs a flush through so that it's ready for when the winter kicks in. This resident's so scared because he's slightly over the threshold for the pension credits and he's not going to receive his £300 that he's refusing to do this. I'm sure many of my fellow councillors in this room will have experienced similar issues, and I think it's the right thing for me to put forward this motion today. Luckily, we have a broad range of councillors in this room, many from the healthcare profession, GPs, etc. And many of these will know firsthand how important it is for pensioners to be warm in the winter period. Last year, as a candidate in December, I had to take a 91-year-old pensioner supplementary heating because her boiler packed in on her. And these are just a few examples of scenarios that we will encounter. I just want to read out a few points of the motion, if I may. The estimated impact of this decision to cut the winter fuel payments, Age UK say that this will affect over 2 million pensioners. In Peterborough alone, this will affect over 25,000 pensioners. The criticism from Age UK, the Countryside Alliance and other charities highlighting the social injustice and potential health risks posed by this sudden change of policy. The Council believes that the winter fuel payment has been a lifeline for many older people across the UK, and restricting its availability solely to those on pension credit risks leaving many pensioners in financial hardship. The decision to means test winter fuel payments, especially with such short notice and without any adequate compensationary measures, is deeply unfair and will disproportionately affect the health and well-being of our older, poorest residents. So I'm now going to request that the Council Leader writes to the Chancellor of the Exchequer, urging a review of the decision to means test winter fuel payment and asking the Government to ensure that vulnerable pensioners, particularly those who do not claim pension credit, are protected from fuel poverty.
Thank you, Councillor. Do you have a seconder for your motion?
Yeah, Councillor Allen is my seconder.
Councillor Allen, do you want to second the motion and reserve your right to speak? Or?
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I'm quite happy to second the motion. I'll reserve my right to speak at this stage. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any speakers? Councillor Hogg.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Oh, seems to get harder to get up the longer as I do it.
Very good. Good lad.
Firstly, thank you to Councillor Rafiq for bringing this motion to Council. Regardless of this being your first motion, it is well thought out, concise and to the point, without the need for party politicking. So thank you for that. Whilst I agree that the winter fuel payment is not fit for purpose, that it is intended, I think most, if not all, can see that the argument that a pensioner that has a pension of, say, £3,000 a month doesn't really need this assistance from government. But I'd also like to think that most would agree that setting the limit to those in receipt of pension credit is far too low. To qualify for pension credit, the threshold is £11,343 a year. The form is long and complex, and so it's no wonder that it's estimated that only 2/3 of those eligible currently get it. There is also a guillotine effect whereby if you are just 1 penny over, you get nothing. There's no winter fuel payment, there's no pension credit, and also a raft of other things that click in if you're in receipt of pension credit. Add to this that the UK has some of the least insulated homes when compared with countries with similar climates, and with homes occupied by older people being some of the worst in the UK itself. Let's not get started on the price we as a country pay for fuel compared to other European countries. So no, the government should not be changing the arrangements around winter fuel payments, or at least not until it has sorted out the pension credit framework, extended the help available to pensioners for proper insulation and other energy saving improvements. And it'd also be nice to see a reduction in energy costs for us all. I'm sure everybody can agree with that one, more in line with that of our neighbours. So we will be supporting this motion on that basis. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Farouk.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. And thank you, Councillor Rafiq. I always knew you were going to add so much value to this council, so thank you. Very good motion. I'll try to cover a different angle from Councillor Hugg. He's made a very good point. And in fact, I'm covered from left and right, both as pensioners as well, so I'll bat for both of them. Mr. Mayor, average life expectancy in the United Kingdom is 80 years. On average, a pensioner receives between 7 to 9 years of pension. Current pension qualifying age is 67. So if now one assumes that we're going to work at the age of 16, this means that on average, a pensioner or a person has worked extraordinarily amount of work of 51 years. During this time, paying income tax, national insurance, VAT, and all the other associated taxes for just 7 to 9 years of return. Very little, very poor return indeed. However, one can say that, look, it doesn't matter. As the taxes we pay, they go towards National Health Service, schools, welfare service, and which protect the vulnerable. So if I worked for 51 years, it doesn't matter. It protects the vulnerable of the society. But when you're a pensioner, and you pay all your life towards protecting the vulnerable, and when you yourself become vulnerable, and they remove that very support from you, which you believed in ethically, and you contribute towards for 51 years, it just isn't right. It's unjust, it's cruel, and I will be supporting this motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Farouk. Any other speakers? Councillor Fitzgerald.
It would be remiss of me, Mr. Mayor, not to make it slightly political. I would be failing in my duty in terms of opposition to Labour Party policy, if not. So it is, as has been eloquently spoken about already, an unfair decision and implementation of this scheme in the very first days of the Labour Party government. And what is to follow, you might think, as we approach the autumn statement and the Chancellor takes to the House of Commons, no doubt to pick your pockets even further, or those of employers, with national insurance hikes and broken promises of taxation. But this is about people, not just about politics. And I think Councillor Rafiq has brought a very important, very topical motion to this council for the right reasons. And I think what I'm hearing around the room is that we care about our pensioners in this city. And I think it's right we do. Councillor Farouk eloquently argued about the amount of money and the return, but we are a one nation together and we all contribute and pay in, some win, some lose. I'm not of pensionable age yet, but maybe I'm looking forward to it next year. But what I would say, a couple of points, because he quite rightly just highlighted all the main points of the motion. But I would echo the points in the last sections about inviting councillors to sign the Winterfield payment for struggling pensioners petition, which is being run by Age UK. So we should all sign that petition and do all we can to promote pension credit uptake through council services and partnerships with local charities and community organisations. And that's really a message for comms and officers to ensure that we could do that. But I think, and I hope the Labour Party will support the motion because they know it's right. Many in the Labour Party don't support this government proposal because it is unjust and it is unfair. And with that, I shall sit down again, Mr. Mayor. I'll be supporting this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Fitzgerald. Are there any others? Councillor Stevenson.
Councillor Rafiq for bringing this motion, which I wholeheartedly support. In 1992, I did my dissertation for my degree on the non-take-up of welfare benefits, so it's a subject I know quite a lot about. And the problem when we introduce means testing is that as a nation we're already quite reluctant to reach into that pot and claim the benefits to which we are entitled, and anything that puts people off puts people at risk, and people will become ill and people will need the NHS more and some people will die. It's obviously completely unacceptable. So thank you, and I will be supporting this motion.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Anybody who knows me has sat on a scrutiny committee with me. What do I want? Perspective. When do I want it? Now. Let's just get a bit of proportion. No, this is never going to be an easy decision to defend, but let's get a bit of perspective on this, please. Is this policy didn't drop from outer space. It's about 14 years of abject conservative failure, where 22 million pound black hole that somehow, some way we've got to fill. And we're finding that we've got to plug this gap, and we've got to investigate ways how to support our economy. The decision to award the winter fuel payment to pensioners receiving pension credit was difficult, and nobody wanted to make it, I agree. But it was necessary. However, we welcome the government's commitment to protect the most vulnerable in our society by delivering the £150 warm home discount for low-income households from this month, while extending the Household Support Fund with £421 million to ensure local authorities can support vulnerable people and families. It wasn't that long ago that I seem to remember going out to schools when the Conservatives, in the winter of 2021, going out and taking food parcels out to schools and seeing teachers in tears. The government is also ensuring that 1.3 million households in England and Wales will continue to receive up to £300 in winter fuel payments. And as the leader of the council, I'm pleased with the speed and efficacy that encourage local pensioners in establishing where they're eligible for the pension credit, and use our share of that £421 million to support the fund most effectively. Am I willing to sign up to everything that Councillor Rafiq has put in the motion? Absolutely. You know, we do want to see fairness, but we do have to fill somehow, and this is a deeply unpopular policy that we've had to make, not wanted to make. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Any councillor?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I wasn't going to comment because I thought this was going to remain unpolitical, but everybody knows that the 22 billion hole they're talking about was a 10 billion hole until they gave 10.5 billion in excessive pay increases to their cronies in the unions. So let's have real perspective if we're going to have perspective, but I will be supporting this motion. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Councillor Allen, do you want to speak now?
I will indeed, and thank you very much, Mr Mayor. In fact, Councillor Elsie beat me to referring to where the black hole arrived from. But let's not make it political. Means-tested benefits are always a challenge, and we have this one, which is really likely to hit people just on the cusp of being in the right strata of finance. So, you know, if your weekly income is just above the 218 quid, or your 332.95 if you're a couple, puts you in the cart. So that's the problem, and I think what we have to do is be pragmatic and speak to our residents and voters and just point them to the fact that pension credits are available if you have a disability, you care for someone, or your savings meet the right criteria. So it's a great motion from my colleague, Councillor, and I think that we should all support it. I hope across the chamber we will support this motion because it addresses a really important thing that's on people's minds at the moment. But also tell your residents to make sure they try for the benefits if they're available, because a lot of people just ignore the fact that they are eligible, and they just don't go for it. We're lazy in this country of picking up those benefits because we don't think they're due for us. So tell the pensioners and those in your ward, in your constituency, whatever you want to call it, that they must try to apply for it where they can. But I support the motion, and let's get behind it cross-chamber. Thank you.
Councillor Rafiq, would you like to sum up?
Yeah, I'd just like to ask for a recorded vote, if that's possible.
Oh, you need. There's. You can't ask for you can ask for a recorded vote, but you need to get enough people.
You need to get 13 members.
13 members have got to stand up with you for you to be able to get a recorded vote. So who's going to support your motion or your request for a recorded vote?
We will support it, Mr. Mayor.
One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, there's a recorded vote. Now, Councillor Rafiq, do you want to speak or was that it?
No, that's it for my debut, thanks. Cheers.
Okay, thank you very much. So we move then to the vote. Councillor Hogg.
Can I just ask, does this super duper system not record who no? It comes up, normally came up afterwards with your names. Okay. Okay.
You're joking.
Maybe you need to buy an upgrade.
You're joking. It's simple and it doesn't work. You imagine if you made it more complicated. Let's go.
Okay, councillors, we're now moving to a recorded vote on the motion from Councillor Rafiq on the winter fuel allowance motion. So I'm going to call your names out. If you can let me know if it's for, against or abstaining, please. Councillor Ahmed.
For.
Councillor Imtiaz Ali.
For.
Councillor Zamir Ali. Abstain. Councillor Allen. Thank you. Councillor Antunes.
For.
Councillor Barkham.
For.
Councillor B.
Abstain.
Councillor Bisbee.
For.
Councillor Blakemore Creedon.
Abstain.
Councillor Andrew Bond.
For.
Councillor Sandra Bond.
For.
Councillor Boyce.
For.
Councillor Sereste.
For.
Councillor Cole.
Abstain.
Councillor Day.
For.
Councillor Dowson. Councillor Ellis.
Abstain.
Councillor Elsey.
For.
Councillor Farrid.
For.
Councillor Mohammed Farouk.
For.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
For.
Councillor Judy Fox.
For.
Councillor John Fox.
For.
Councillor Chris Harper.
For.
Councillor Hemraj.
Abstain.
Councillor Hiller.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Hillier.
For.
Councillor Hogg.
For.
Councillor Jamil. Sorry, I've got an apology. Councillor Alison Jones.
Abstain.
Councillor Dennis Jones.
Abstain.
Councillor Mahmood.
Abstain.
Councillor McNally.
Abstain.
Councillor Ormston.
For.
Councillor Perkins.
For.
Councillor Kayoum. Councillor Rafiq. Thank you. Councillor Rangzeb.
For.
Councillor Ray.
For.
Councillor Rush.
For.
Councillor Sabia. Councillor Seeger.
For.
Councillor Anne Shahid.
For.
Councillor Azif Shahid.
For, please, Rachel.
For, yeah, thank you. Councillor Skibstead.
For.
Councillor Stevenson.
For.
Councillor Strangward.
Abstain.
Councillor Walsh.
For the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Warren.
For.
And Councillor Wiggin.
For.
Just bear with me, 2 ticks. Okay, thank you, councillors. So I have 35 members in favour, I have no one against, and I have 15 abstentions. Therefore, that is carried. Thank you.
Right, thank you for that, councillors. We now move to the... Sorry, Councillor Fitzgerald.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, just a point of clarification before we move on. Given that the Labour Party on a political basis abstained, the Leader of the Council still commits to the Council's decision that you will write to the Chancellor of the Exchequer asking for a review.
I believe I said that when I was speaking, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Well, okay, let's move on. We might move to the second motion from Councillor Imtiaz Ali. Councillor Ali, would you like to move your motion as set out in the agenda?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'd like to move my motion, and just, seeing as we're correcting pronunciations, it's Imtiaz Ali. This is a motion, it's asking for essentially the same thing. It's a letter to the Chancellor of the Exchequer and to the Prime Minister and to our local MPs to think about cutting the cap on the 2-child limit for child benefit. So my children are grown now, but I've got 4 children, and when they were younger, I benefited from getting child benefit for all 4 of my children. I'm one of 8 siblings, big family, second-generation immigrant, and I know how vital it is to have access to that additional bit of income when you're struggling to make ends meet. This is, I believe, a policy that was enacted. I know Councillor Rafiq got commended for not making his motion political, and certainly tried not to, but this was a Conservative policy back in 2017, which was brought in to try and encourage employment rates and earning rates. Since then, obviously, the research has shown that it's not achieved any of the benefits that it was promising. I should point out that this was heavily objected to and campaigned against by all political parties at the time. So I'm really hoping that colleagues of other political parties will now stand by what they campaigned on not too long ago in opposing the child benefit cap. And I should also mention that this was a policy that was included in the Lib Dems manifesto of this general election, and the last one, and the one before that as well. So, yeah, happy to move my motion, and I believe Councillor Shahid is seconding. Thank you.
And thank you for that. Do you have a seconder?
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Yeah, that's Councillor Shahid.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Happy to second Councillor Imtiaz Ali's motion and reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any speakers? Councillor Day.
I will remember to stand. I'm really pleased that Councillor Ali has brought this motion to Council today. During the general election, the Green Party were clear we wanted to scrap the 2-child benefit cap. The benefit of this policy, as Councillor Ali has alluded to, is that it will help families in need, but also that money generally gets spent in the local economy, helping make communities more sustainable. Members, we urge you to support this very important motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hogg. Councillor Hogg. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And while I'm in the mood for giving praise to other people's motions, I know that it was heavily borrowed from a Liberal Democrat motion, so I'm not going to give you all the credit for this motion, but I will say that this motion is definitely something of its time and needed. The two-child benefit cap is oddly named, as it doesn't actually affect child benefit, but is actually about child tax credit and universal benefit. Brought in by the Conservatives in 2017, but it now seems that Labour have no intention of changing it. Yet, according to the charity Save the Children, its removal would lift 500,000 children across the UK out of poverty. Just have a think about that, just for a few seconds. 500,000 children out of poverty. And it highlights why this cap is so wrong. Whilst it might seek to reduce benefit payments and punish the parents that dare to have more than 2 children, it effectively punishes those children and further disadvantages them as they grow up and into adulthood. Regardless of whether you have reservations of the parents and their decisions to increase the number of children in their family, disadvantaging their children simply is not the way forward. The Labour Party need to get a grip on this, and they need to get a grip on it very quickly. This needs to go away, and it should never come back. So I and my group will be supporting this motion. Thank you.
Councillor Farouk.
Thank you, Mayor, and through yourself. Mr Mayor, I strongly believe that no child should be in poverty. And as Councillor Hugg suggests, we can lift 500,000 of children out of poverty and give them start in life they deserve by scrapping the child benefit cap. Mr Mayor, there are more children now in poverty than ever before. In fact, it was Labour MP Clive Lewis 8 months ago who spoke in the Parliament saying that how he visited a local school and was told that so many children come to school hungry. And when he asked the head teacher, how did she know that they came to school on empty stomach? And she told him that they eat sand at playtimes in the playground. We cannot allow this to ever happen, Mr Mayor, and lifting the two-child cap helped towards that. Mr Mayor, recent statistics also show that for the first time, the fertility rate is lower than the mortality rate. So it's not that we're giving a lot of children a birth and the nation can't afford to support them. Mr Mayor, I feel passionately about supporting children in poverty. In fact, before I came into politics, in 2013, I invited a national charity called Magic Breakfast to provide breakfast to 3 schools, 2 in Peterborough, and I funded the project for 3 years until it became sustainable. I wholeheartedly support this motion. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm not going to die in a ditch over this one. I'm more than happy with Councillor Imtiaz Ali's suggestions about writing to the MPs and to the Chancellor of the Exchequer. But many of us appear to have forgotten that during the election it was made clear that the Labour government were not going to spend money commitments without being able to say where the money was going to come from. If you're not able to say where the money's going to come from, we can't promise to do it. And that was the same thing with the two-child benefit. The Chancellors have appointed to election policies such as in new workers' rights, breakfast clubs in primary schools and creating nursery places as evidence they were still committed to reducing child poverty. As Rachel Reeves herself said, previous Labour governments have lifted our kids out of poverty. It's in our DNA, and that's something I'm very, very proud of, and that will continue. But as she said, we're not willing to make unfunded commitments, but I will do as, just so that Councillor Fitzgerald understands this time, I will indeed write to the Chancellor and indeed to the 2 MPs.
Thank you, Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm afraid I'm going to be an outlier on this one. I won't vote against the motion because I think it's heartfelt and understandable, but I will abstain on this because we do have a black hole financially in this country. Keep being reminded by the Labour Party of that because they keep giving their bunts to their friends. But getting back to this particular motion, I think that starting a family is a major decision in any couple's life. And I think planned families are proper families. That is the way forward. Families in need have recourse to the benefit system, and we've just heard that the Breakfast Club is one of those that's recently been brought in. So I won't be voting for this, but I will abstain, and I understand why those of you that do vote for it will do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor.
Just one thing. I take reference to Councillor Allen about his friends and Councillor Casey on the last motion about trade unions. Actually, trade unions do a lot of good work. You've got a lot of people that actually work for the council that are trade union members and deserve a pay rise. Lots of staff deserve a pay rise. We keep the public sectors going. We've had below inflation pay rises for the last 10 years. So we deserve this. So I'm getting a bit fed up with the trade union bashing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor, if there are no other speakers, we go to Councillor Shahid. Do you want to?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I feel everything's been said. I have nothing further to add to the debate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So shall we go to Councillor Ali to sum up?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is more just to appeal to what Councillor Allen said and also to what Councillor Jones said about how policies need to be self-funding. If you believe the local government association, they'll tell you that the cost of scrapping this cab will cost us £1.3 billion a year, but children in poverty are costing us £39 billion a year across the country. So it's an absolute no-brainer, and we're always happy to use figures like that to justify when we're making cuts, but we're not happy to refer to these figures where we've got a genuine, tangible benefit. I respect people want to make decisions when it comes to finances, but you can't be in opposition for 12 years, 14 years, harping on about something about lifting children out of poverty being at the heart of your DNA, when the first opportunity you get to lift 500,000 children out of poverty overnight, you decide that there's a better way of doing it. So I'm happy to close there, and like Councillor Rafiq, I'd request a recorded vote. Thank you.
Thank you. We then move to the vote. What?
A recorded vote, a quarter of members need to support.
Who wants it? You want a recorded vote?
So that's not a quarter.
You need 13 people.
That's 7 people, that's 8 people. So
That's no. Okay. Rachel, Ed, when you're ready.
Okay, councillors, we're using the voting system on this one then. So we're voting for the motion on from Councillor Imtiaz Ali. It's your microphone buttons. So it's green is for, red is against, and yellow is to abstain. Is the vote open? Yes, yeah. Okay, if you should be able to vote. You should be able to in a moment. Can we see it on the screen? Yep, she's... Okay. If you have any issues, can you just raise your hand for me? Don't push the microphone button. Is she live?
We need to do something about this chair and this hole in the floor. Well, it's thing without a cap on, which is extremely dangerous, which is why they've used the cushion to cover the hole on the floor instead of putting it on the chair. But that needs sorting. Sorry.
Has everybody voted? We've got Councillor Ray. You've push again. Push again. Oh, okay. Okay. What we got? So I can't see it. I can't even see it. Can you see the figures? I can't see it.
She needs to push it out.
Oh, that's it. There we go.
25 in favour.
Yeah.
1 against.
22 abstain, 1 against. I can't see that. I need new glasses. I need new glasses. Sorry about that, guys. So we have 26 in favour, we have 1 against and 22 abstentions. Therefore, this is carried. Thank you.
Agenda item 13, reports to Council. 13A is the political balance and allocation of committee seats. Councillor Mohammed Jamil, would you therefore like to move the recommendations to the report regarding political balance and allocation of committee seats?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It gives me pleasure to propose that we accept the proportionality as set out in section 13A of the agenda pack.
And do you have a seconder?
He does, Councillor. He does, Mr. Mayor. It's me, and I reserve my right to speak.
Thank you very much. Are there any speakers? Go on, Councillor Hogg.
Sorry, it's just a quickie. There is a slight error on page 189 where it states that we have a representation of 1 on audit committee and 1 on corporate parenting. This was changed last time where we did a swap with the Greens. So we don't have anybody on audit, but we have 2 people on. And I believe the next section actually got it right. I just wanted to make sure that it was there for the record.
Okay, it's corrected in the supplementary pack, apparently. It's okay, fine. Any other speakers? Is that agreed? Excellent. We move then to 13B, appointments to committees and other authorities. Councillor Jamil, once again, would you like to move the recommendation?
I certainly would. Section agenda item 13B as set out in the agenda pack.
And Councillor Jones, are you going to second it?
I am indeed. Now reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any Councillor Farouk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just an entry on Cambridgeshire Police and Crime Panel. From Peterborough First, you have Councillor Mark Ormiston on there. Can I please change that and put Councillor Neil Boyce on there instead? Can I propose that?
Well, if you propose that as a motion and somebody second it, it can happen.
Happy to second it, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, okay. It's been seconded by. But can I just can I come in with a point of information?
Sorry,
Mr. Mayor. Point of information. This was actually put forward when I was leader to change that. So I don't know why I've got to this stage. It's been put forward quite a while ago.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
Yeah. Point of what?
I think it's clarity. I just wanted to know, as we haven't got any elections next year, whether these appointments continue through or they have to be all renegotiated next year, because I haven't been in a situation with a fallow year before.
I would imagine that at the next council meeting, full new year, these will all go through the system and whatever comes out the other end will be whatever comes out the other end. So no, I don't think these will go through all through next year as well. No, it'll all start again. Councillor Hogg.
Sorry, if we're being clarifying that there's also a slight error in terms of the Warrington Neighbourhood Council. I've got Councillor A. Bond down, and that should read Councillor A. Shahid. A.L. Shahid.
Can we just take this through in steps? Councillor Farouk has proposed a motion for change.
Yeah.
Can we just agree that?
Okay. First of all, it's getting very confusing, and it's late. Well, anyway, for somebody as young as me. So can we agree or not agree Councillor Farouk's motion? Right, great. Next one. Councillor Hogg. You'll need to propose it and get a seconder.
Well, I think I've already proposed the change that I want, and I believe Councillor Wigan is prepared to second. Thank you, okay. Mr. Mayor.
Happy to second, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is that agreed? Right. Councillor, yes, she wants to make a point. Yeah.
I just wanted, it's a point of information really. I was on the Anglian Regional Flood and Coastal Committee, which I really wanted to be on.
There's no such thing as a point of information.
Oh, it's
but
just
what
to let you know,
what,
it's inaccurate because I've asked to become off of it now.
Accuracy then.
A point of accuracy. So I'm now no longer on that. The council leader knows, but I just thought I'd clarify that. Okay, thank you.
Yes, okay. Subject to all those changes, are we agreed? Great, let's get on then. Right, 13C, review of polling district, places and stations. Councillor Jamil again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Once again, item 13C, review of the polling districts. The recommendation on page 221, I would formally like to propose that it's accepted by full council.
Councillor Jones.
I'm happy to second, Mr. Mayor, because I'll speak now, if I may, which is just to thank the officers. This is the last and this bit are really very, very difficult tasks, and I'm just mindful of the fact that mistakes do happen, and I do appreciate the efforts they put in and to rectify it.
And
Thank
the officers do need a vote of thanks. Do we have any speakers on this? Or any changes or comments or new amendments or, you know, have we got the apostrophe wrong somewhere? No? Okay. Right. Is that agreed then? Whoa, wonderful stuff. Oh, update on Children's Improvement Board. I'd like to exercise my discretion as Mayor and invite Councillor Cole to update the Council on the Children's Improvement Plan. Councillor Cole, please would you now update Council?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Since I last updated you, the Improvement Board has met twice in August and September, and I'm pleased to now be able to update members on the improvement work taking place across children and young people's services. As members will be aware, Ofsted undertook a monitoring visit of children's services at the end of July with a focus on care leavers. I'm pleased to be able to share with you the feedback from this visit highlighted that there were early signs of improvement and the positive impact the personal advisors have had on the lives of young people they support. Ofsted noted that the local authority knows itself well and the feedback letter reflects a service that is improving. Although the feedback letter will not be published by Ofsted, the board agreed that the letter should be taken to the Scrutiny Committee, and I look forward to the opportunity to share it fully with members in due course. Since my last update to the House, Children's Services has also received feedback from the LGA Peer Challenge of Corporate Parenting. This highlighted a strong commitment from members and officers to improve children's services and identified 12 recommendations to improve council-wide understanding of corporate parenting commitments. The board heard that following receipt of the feedback, arrangements for a corporate parenting board are being reviewed in line with the recommendations. I'm pleased to also be able to share building work to relocate the MASH has been completed and the team have now successfully transferred to San Martin House. Health are now co-located in the MASH and police officers will join shortly. The space created provides a secure and well-equipped environment for staff and partners. A transformation plan has been developed and support improvement work in this area. Work to improve Children's Services performance is ongoing and continues to be monitored through the Improvement Board. As part of the update, the performance overview was shared and board members heard that the refresh of the family safeguarding and work with Hertfordshire will support work to reduce the high numbers of referrals and contacts coming into the MASH. Following a decision by the Chief Exec Group to establish a separate partnership arrangement for Cambridgeshire and Peterborough, I can confirm that officers are exploring the arrangements for the new Peterborough Safeguarding Children Partnership. Work is underway to establish the Executive Group, Partnership Board and subgroups. The revised arrangements will be published by the end of 2024, and I look forward to sharing further details with you later in the year. Finally, I'm pleased to share that a city centre location has been identified for the house project, and a house project lead has been appointed. This is really positive news, and this project will support our young people leaving care to develop the skills and confidence they need to succeed. And I also want to say thank you to the whole of the Children's Services team, because their work is what's providing this improvement.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. Item 15, again, I'm exercising my discretion as Mayor to invite Councillor Quayle to update Council on Stoptober. I'm sure Councillor Quayle will explain to you what that is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And it gives me great pleasure, actually, to explain what Stoptober means. And I'd like to thank Amanda as Head of Comms for putting out a message on my behalf to councillors a couple of weeks ago when this first started. And indeed, the number of councillors that have reciprocated through communication and spoken to me about experiences, number one, and also quoting my friend Councillor Hiller about giving this a bit more of a positive edge. And I'd like to thank him for that, because I reflected on my communications and I think it's important to share that. So let's start off to be a bit positive. Stoptober is the month of smoking cessation, and I extend an invitation to all members over here to set an example to our city. First of all, your breath doesn't smell if you stop smoking. Your fingers don't stain when you stop smoking. You can taste your food, and obviously it's a very cost-effective way to budget your finances. And it's the Department of Health and Social Care's annual Stop Smoking campaign. And it's actually based on evidence that if a smoker makes it to 28 days smoke-free, they are 5 times more likely to quit for good. Since it first launched in 2012, Stoptober has helped over 2.5 million people make a quit in smoking attempt. Our rates of smoking in Peterborough are still high, with 12.2% of Peterborough adults, which is 19,953 people, continuing to smoke tobacco. There are wide disparities amongst our population groups and geographical areas. For those who work in a routine and manual occupations in the city, 15.4% of people smoke. Support from a stop smoking service gives smokers the best chance of quitting for good. It is for this reason that I'd like to announce an initiative to invite members of this council who smoke to lead from the front and take part in our excellent smoking cessation service. We would highlight their journeys through our social media channels. And at the end, there will be a special announcement of the councillors who have successfully engaged and stayed off smoking, with additional coverage in the media. It would be great to make this a campaign that sends a positive message to our residents, with plenty of fun along the way. So Councillor Peter Hiller's experience for those who need motivation is thus. Quote, I became a non-smoker over the Christmas week in 1992 during a bout of chesty coughing. My methodology was one of no announcements, no promises, and no self-imposed targets, just seeing what effect it had on my persistent cough. And it did. I always kept a packet of fags available. This was psychological, so I didn't feel a loss or a physical deprivation. It worked for me. And do you know what, Doc? It changed my life from then on. It gets so much easier as you progress and appreciate the improvements in your life at whatever stage or age you are. Better breathing, improved taste, clothes and hair that don't stink, and especially now, the enormous cost saving of not buying the beep things. I didn't say the last word at the end. If you'd like to take part, please visit the Healthy You website, which is available by Googling Stop Smoking Healthy You Peterborough to see what support is available. And let us know if you're making a quit attempt. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Very, very important initiative. Wish you best of luck with that, and everybody else who hasn't stopped smoking, please try. Unfortunately, I've had to exercise my discretion again as Mayor to allow this late item regarding the appointment of a statutory scrutiny officer. So it shouldn't take too long. Councillor Jamil, would you please move the recommendation?
On agenda item 14, I move that full council here appoint the Democratic and Constitutional Services Manager as the authority's statutory scrutiny officer and approve the amendment to clause 3 of Article 7 of the Peterborough City Council Constitution Overview and Scrutiny as set out in Appendix A to the report at the end.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Jones, are you seconding this?
I will, and reserve my right to speak.
Thank you very much. Do we have any debate? It's agreed. Thank you. Well, in that case, I'm going to hand over to Rachel. Oh, I don't know what for. Anyway, safe journey home. That's the end of the meeting.
Thank you, Chair.